Hello and welcome to Africa Now, the show that keeps an eye on global trends and its impact on the continent of Africa in aspects of agriculture, latest technology innovations, trade, sports, politics, policies, people and places. Africa Now serves you very engaging and highly informative discussions, in-depth documentaries unraveling the continent and its people like you've never seen before. Africa Now is brought to you by your digital-first Pan-African network, TOS TV. We start by looking at the impact of the coronavirus once more in the continent of Africa. The pandemic had most of the year 2020, of course, bringing economic activities to a standstill as lives changed forever for some. Earlier on, it was predicted by some international health organizations that things would likely go worse as the pandemic continued. But thankfully, those predictions were proved wrong. The year 2020 also wasn't totally bad for Africa. We witnessed the signing of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, so the year 2021 is already looking good for the continent. The African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement will create the largest free trade area in the world, measured by the number of countries participating. The pact connects 3.3 billion people across 55 African countries with a combined gross domestic product valued at $354.4 trillion. It has the potential to lift about 30 million people out of extreme poverty, but achieving its full potential will depend on putting in place significant policies, reforms, and trade facilitation measures. The pact aims to boost intra-African trade by making Africa a single market of 1.2 billion people and a cumulative GDP over 3.4 trillion. The UN Economic Commission for Africa estimates that the implementation of the agreement could increase intra-African trade by 52% in 2022 compared with trade levels in 2020, and double the share of intra-African trade, around 13% of Africa's exports by the start of the next decade. Joining me to discuss the benefits of the AfCFTA Treaty is Mr. Taiwo Adepoju, a startup specialist. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Steph, for having me on the set.
Good to have you here.
Elated. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay, so looking at some of the benefits of the AfCFTA Treaty now, how can African entrepreneurs position themselves advantageously? Okay,
so just even before we start to talk about how they begin to position, is
right.
to enable people have a sense of awareness as to what really the agreement is all about. So the AfCFTA and the agreement has a potential to bring about growth, to boost development, remove poverty, all right, or reduce poverty to a significant level, and then ultimately ensure that there's economic transformation. Now, however, until there's a mindset shift, until we begin to understand that we can make this happen, and then everybody begins to position, and those that are currently doing businesses can begin to think of how to scale, then this will almost just be something utopic. So first, one of the things is to even understand what AfCFTA is. So we talk about the first protocols. So the trade facilitation agreement was born out, all right, from, and it didn't just start today. It started off from when the famous and late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, said, look, there's a need to have a unification for Africa. And there was this popular quote, he said, look, seek ye first the political kingdom, and every other thing will be added. And what he meant, and he entreated leaders then in 1963 at the Organization of African Unity, which is now, and became rebranded into African Union. And in line with that also, in furtherance of the need to have a unified Africa, even though we've gone ahead to have economic communities, and then we've had the boost in trade, in between those communities, ECOWAS, SADC, COMESA, and all of that. But there's still a gap. And this gap is such that the governments, all right, the heads of states, the ministers of trade in all of these countries, realized that beyond just having clusters of communities, there was now a sincere need to pen this down. So this was ratified, passed. There were some negotiations, and they listed a few things. And in the listing of these few things, we found that, hey, look, there are protocols that must be adhered to. So first on the protocol that was unanimously agreed, even though countries needed to now ratify and sign off and make their deposits, that's agreement deposits, at the Secretariat, is the fact that, one, goods and services, the movement of goods and services. Two, the movement, so one is movement of goods, the second is movement of services,
right.
And then the third is dispute resolution. So in case there are disputes, we are able to resolve it. So this has been well thought through. So if you're having any scary, intentions or notions, or you feel that, look, this is impracticable, this didn't just start yesterday. So it's almost like, yeah, we are ready. But are we ready mentally? Are we ready? Because this has potential. Now, remember, potential. Even IMF says this is a potential game changer. This is the only agreement, all right, single agreement that avails access to 55 African countries, as it were, to be able to trade seamlessly, the largest in the world as we speak today.
That means every part of Africa has got to be ready. Highlighting some of the possible hiccups of the AfCFTA treaty now is slow implementation of this treaty across African states. We just talked about, the import and export of goods and services around Africa. So some of the things or some of the worries or fears of entrepreneurs are, this might be slowly implemented in some African states, because I know that individually every country has import and export. Would I put them guidelines, or would I put, for lack of a better word, there are certain regulations, exactly,
yes,
surrounding import and export. So what are your thoughts on this?
So that agreement has detailed a few things. Top on the list, I know agriculture and then manufacturing. So in that cluster, this is a removal of tariff up to about 90%. The removal of tariff, now that is one problem, and we hope that this agreement will help ameliorate or deal with. But that's not sufficient, because the way the Secretariat has been commissioned is that though things have been signed, until we start to operationalize this agreement, we cannot now begin to know where the issues are. So it's almost like a child. There will be teething problems here and there. So what did the Secretariat and even the African Union committee around this set out to do? They say, look, can we have like a platform currently right now, I think it's Trade Africa Barriers or Trade Barrier Africa, that once you start to trade, once you want to start to move your goods, in as much as you believe that the AfCFTA agreement has been signed, you could get to a border, say you are in Nigeria, moving to Cotonou, you could get a challenge crossing over.
That's right.
Note it down, report it accordingly, all right? In reporting it, immediately what the Secretariat will do is capture it. If there's need for compensation, they will compensate you. Remember, it takes off on the 1st, on the 1st of January. And in fact, it's taken off now. And now it will be those that are able to use it, utilize it, and say, okay, these are the teething issues we experience, and report it. Now, so that's one. But there's also a bigger danger, all right? I love the fact that you talked about ECOPs. So there's the tariff barriers. This treaty addresses the tariff barriers, and I'd like to underscore that. There's also what we call the non-tariff barriers, NTBs. Non-tariff barriers are things that, for whatever reasons, delays occasioned by either checking for compliance, checking of certificates, delays by custom, NDLA, and all of that. What government has also done is, and the Secretariat as it were, and all of this is that we are going to create a platform where people can also highlight some of these things that, other than the tariff, because AfCFTA is all about creating a free trade area to facilitate trade.
Right.
There are also lingering barriers that are non-tariff, in that classification, that they're non-tariff barriers, and that could impede the progress, even times 3. So whilst we're busy jubilating over, oh yes, the tariffs have been removed, and we experience tariff up to 90%, and there will be activity and trade facilitation, there is that bit of non-tariff barriers. And the non-tariff barriers are the key to what the Secretariat seeks to address. And that's also some of the things that we are priming some of the startups as a startup specialist. Say, until you start doing and you start reporting and monitoring and tracking, there cannot be any significant change. So that's why we say it has the potential. And you know, everything with potential. It's like a potential, really. It doesn't reach the momentum. So it will be trial, it will be activation, and it will be the practice.
That's right. Okay, so what advice would you have to give to African entrepreneurs looking to take advantage of the AfCFTA treaty?
So the AfCFTA treaty is two-sided, and so to the guys that are less discerning, they would probably just think, okay, those guys are doing their thing. But certainly, certain things have started to happen. There are a lot of countries promoting AfCFTA, a few countries that have interest in AfCFTA. E-commerce will be on the rise. There will be trade, there will be networking between Africans. Intra-trade will increase. Now, how do you prepare? If anybody wants to come and invest in Africa, or with an African, or in a company in Africa, then that company must be ready, must be prepared, must have system, must have structure. Before then, you have a strategy. All right? Now, if that is missing and you wake up and AfCFTA has been signed, it's about time to partake. Sorry, you would have missed the boat at that point.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mr. Taiwo, who is a startup specialist. It was great to have you here.
Thank you, Steph.
Africa Now will be back after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining, Africa Now is brought to you by TOS TV, your digital-first Pan-African network. As Africa passes more than 1 million confirmed COVID-19 cases, innovators on the continent have responded to the challenges of the pandemic with a wide range of creative inventions. Let's take a look at some of the African innovations to help tackle COVID-19 in the continent. First, Dr. Car Robot. Students from the Dakar Polytechnic School in Senegal have built a multifunctional robot designed to lower the risk of COVID-19 contaminations from patients to caregivers. The device is equipped with cameras and is remotely controlled via an app. The designers say it can move around the rooms of quarantined patients to take their temperatures and deliver drugs and food. Second, the Respire 19 portable ventilator. Amid a shortage of ventilators on COVID-19 wards in Nigeria, 20-year-old engineering student Usman Dalhatu attempted to help meet the shortfall. Dalhatu built the portable automatic ventilator to help people with respiratory problems, often a symptom of severe coronavirus infection. He now plans to build up to 20 ventilators. The third, police robots on lockdown patrol. Authorities in Tunisia deployed police robots on the streets of the capital, Tunis, in April to enforce lockdown measures. The surveillance robots, called P-guards, spied on people walking on the street and approached them to ask why they were out. Offenders then had to show their ID and other documents to the cameras attached to the robots. The four-wheel devices are equipped with thermal imaging cameras and light detection and ranging technology. Another remarkable moment for Africa was the year 2020 historic support for gender-based violence across the continent. From campaigns to one-on-one orientation, young and old Africans left no stone unturned in the fight against gender-based violence 2020. Pandemics often lead to breakdowns of social infrastructures. As a result, the existing gender inequality is worsened by the pandemic situations. It also increases the exposure of children and women to harassment and sexual violence. A report about rapid gender analysis on COVID-19 by CARE and International Rescue had expected gender-based violence to rise amid pandemic and quarantines. TOS Foundation launched a 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, joining an annual international campaign that ran from 25th of November till 10th December. Now, activists at the inaugural Women's Global Leadership Institute started the movement 29 years ago, and it has continued ever since then. The global theme for this year was Orange the World: Fund, Respond, Prevent, and Collect.
Be empathic. Listen to the experiences of survivors and respond to their needs.
Support and donate to your local or national safe houses and shelters. Visit TOS Foundation on www.theosasushowfoundation.org.
Be proactive. Form a caring, non-violent bond with young boys and girls in your community. Educate them, promote respectful relationships and gender equality.
Take a stand. Stand against any form of sexual harassment, violence, or exploitation against children, adolescents, and women.
Challenge traditional gender norms. There is no single definition of what it means to be a man or a woman. Encourage positive transformations in gender equality.
TOS Foundation has a mission to improve the welfare and livelihood of women and youth, especially those in rural communities through education, economic empowerment, capacity building to fast-track the eradication of poverty in Nigeria and, by extension, Africa. Coming up next on Africa Now, Picture of the Day. And I'll leave you with words, of course, from the popular Ashanti adage: when a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Africa Now. Do not forget, you could be a part of the show. All you have to do is follow us on social media at TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. TOS TV is also available on TSTV Africa as TOS News Channel 138. I am Stephanie Audia.